15 strongest golden age actors and their dirty secrets. What if I told you that one of these legendary strongmen was an actual criminal before Hollywood made him a cowboy hero? That another's perfect measurements were inflated lies? That a third nearly died in a freak accident that proved his strength was absolutely real? And that one Olympic champion unwittingly became Nazi propaganda? Can you guess which is which? Steve Reeves, Charles Atlas, Clint Walker, Victor Mature, Rory Calhoun, or Reg Park? Those Saturday matinee heroes you remember weren't the natural champions they appeared to be. The studio system spent millions protecting secrets that would have destroyed careers overnight. Here's what'll really shock you folks. I've got documented proof of measurement fraud, criminal cover-ups, and scandals that go to the heart of everything we believed about the golden age of muscle. By the end of this countdown, you'll know which cowboy was running from the law, which fitness guru was a complete fraud, and why Hollywood's most perfect physique ended up as a bitter recluse. Think you know your childhood heroes? Let's see if any of them survive what's coming, and tell me in the comments, which of these classic strongmen was your Saturday afternoon favorite? Because I guarantee one of these revelations will completely change how you remember him. Number 15, Lex Barker, the Princeton Tarzan's family nightmare. On screen, he was the noble savage swinging through trees. But behind closed doors, his family would later reveal a nightmare that still stains his legacy today. Remember when they replaced Johnny Weissmuller with that sophisticated college boy? Those of you who followed the Tarzan series in the early 50s watched Lex Barker bring Princeton education to the jungle. Standing 6'2" with 190 pounds of lean muscle, Barker played the Ape Man from 1949 to 1953, and his refined 17-inch arms and 44-inch chest looked more civilized than Weissmuller's bulk. But what the studio publicity departments never told you was the darkness this Ivy League graduate carried behind that handsome face. Decades later, shocking allegations would surface from his own stepdaughter that would forever taint how we remember those Saturday afternoon adventures. The same man who swung through trees as the noble savage was accused of being a monster in his own home. Yet despite these troubling allegations, Barker's portrayal of Tarzan brought a new sophistication to the character that many fans still appreciate today. Number 14, Mark Forrest, the Brooklyn bodybuilder who became Italy's forgotten Hercules. What happens when a teenage bodybuilder joins Mae West's traveling show of muscle men? The answer might surprise you. You probably don't remember Mark Forrest. But in the early 1960s, this Brooklyn-born strongman was pulling down serious money in Italian sword and sandal epics. Born Lou Degni in 1933, Forrest stood 5'10" with 190 pounds of solid muscle, 18-inch arms, and a 32-inch waist that would make today's fitness influencers weep. But here's what the publicity never told you folks. Forrest started bodybuilding at just 13 years old, and before he was swinging swords in Italian studios, he was working Mae West's traveling troupe of muscle men. You remember Mae West, don't you? That platinum blonde bombshell who made careers out of young, muscular men. What happened during those tours would make your wives clutch their pearls. The real scandal was how quickly Forrest disappeared after his movie career ended. Unlike other sword and sandal stars who milked their fame for decades, Forrest vanished from public view, becoming an opera singer and refusing to discuss his muscle-bound movie days. When film historians tried to contact him, he was notoriously uncooperative, leading many to wonder what exactly he was trying to forget. Still, Forrest's transformation from Brooklyn teenager to Italian cinema hero showed what determination and hard work could achieve in Hollywood's golden age. Number 13, William Smith, the legitimate tough guy Hollywood couldn't break. Here's one actor who was exactly what he appeared to be, and that's probably why Hollywood never knew what to do with him. William Smith could actually back up his tough guy roles with real strength and legitimate credentials. This bodybuilder turned actor appeared in hundreds of films and TV shows, often as the heavy, because his physical presence was genuinely intimidating. Standing 6'2" with over 200 pounds of functional muscle, Smith had 19-inch arms built through real powerlifting, not just posing. Those of you who remember him from biker films and action movies saw authentic toughness on screen. Smith could bench press over 500 pounds and had legitimate martial arts training that made his fight scenes look real because they often were. But Smith's authenticity was exactly what kept him from becoming a major star. Hollywood preferred manufactured tough guys they could control, not genuine hardmen who might actually hurt someone during filming. His real strength made insurance companies nervous, and his unwillingness to play studio politics kept him perpetually cast as the villain. In a town built on illusion, William Smith's genuine toughness made him an outsider. But for those who appreciated authenticity over artifice, he remained the real deal until the end. Speaking of authentic versus manufactured, our next strongman built an empire on promises he couldn't keep. Number 12. Jack LaLanne, the fitness guru's heart-stopping hypocrisy. Now here's a name that'll bring back memories for those of you who remember morning television in the 1950s and 60s. Jack LaLanne, that energetic fitness guru who promised to make you a new person with just 15 minutes a day. Standing 5'7" and weighing 150 to 160 pounds, LaLanne built an empire on his compact but incredibly muscular physique with 16-inch arms and a 28-inch waist. But folks, if you bought into LaLanne's promise of perfect health through his exercise system, you might want to sit down for this one. The man who preached clean living and claimed his fitness methods could help you live to 100 had been hiding serious heart problems for decades. That's right, the same guy doing handcuffed swims across San Francisco Bay was dealing with cardiovascular issues that would have sidelined most men half his age. The supplement industry corruption runs even deeper. LaLanne made millions selling vitamins and protein powders to eager Americans. But industry insiders knew he didn't actually use most of the products he hawked on television. While he was telling housewives to buy his 1995 exercise contraptions, he was working out with custom-built equipment worth thousands. The irony is staggering. The man who promised perfect health through his methods couldn't deliver that promise even to himself. Yet millions of Americans trusted him with their fitness dreams, never knowing about the medical secrets he was hiding. But if you think LaLanne's deception was shocking, wait until you hear about the child star whose entire life was controlled by forces beyond his comprehension. Number 11. Johnny Sheffield, the exploited child star who couldn't escape the jungle. If you're in your 70s or 80s, you definitely remember little Johnny Sheffield swinging through the trees as boy in those Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movies. What you might not know is the dark story of how Hollywood chewed up and spit out this talented child actor. Sheffield started his career at just 8 years old in 1939, chosen from hundreds of young hopefuls. Even as a child, Sheffield had that athletic build that would define his entire career. By his teenage years, he'd grown to 5'10" with a lean but muscular 170-pound frame that looked natural swinging from vines. But his entire childhood was controlled by the studio system in ways that would be considered criminal today. The real tragedy began when Sheffield outgrew his role as boy. Instead of transitioning to adult dramatic roles, the studios created Bomba the Jungle Boy. This wasn't artistic vision, this was desperation. Sheffield was trapped in jungle, typecasting so severe that he couldn't even audition for normal roles. By age 25, he'd been so thoroughly branded as a jungle primitive that he became unemployable in regular films. Sheffield's story serves as a stark reminder of how the studio system treated human beings as disposable commodities. The same industry that made millions from his childhood performances abandoned him the moment he was no longer useful to their bottom line. From child exploitation to adult brutality, our next revelation involves an NFL linebacker who learned the hard way that Hollywood's promises meant nothing when real danger struck. Number 10. Mike Henry, the NFL linebacker's lawsuit against Paramount. Those of you who followed professional football in the 1960s remember Mike Henry as a legitimate NFL linebacker who could deliver bone-crushing tackles. Standing 6'2" and weighing over 220 pounds of explosive muscle with 17-inch biceps, Henry had the kind of raw physical power that made quarterbacks nervous. His transition to playing Tarzan seemed natural. But the reality was far more sinister. Henry was contracted to do 3 Tarzan films, starting with Tarzan and the Valley of Gold in 1966. The studio marketed him as the most authentic Tarzan ever, a real athlete who could perform genuine feats of strength. What they didn't mention was how they planned to achieve that authenticity. The animal attack that nearly ended Henry's career wasn't an accident, it was negligence, bordering on criminal. During filming, Henry was mauled by a supposedly tame chimpanzee that left him with serious injuries requiring extensive medical treatment. But here's where it gets really ugly. Paramount Pictures tried to cover up the incident and refused to pay for Henry's medical bills. Henry fought back with a lawsuit that exposed the dangerous working conditions on Hollywood adventure films. His case revealed that studios regularly put actors in life-threatening situations without proper safety measures, relying on insurance policies rather than prevention. Henry's courage in fighting the studio system helped protect future actors from similar exploitation. His lawsuit proved that even the mightiest studios could be held accountable when they put profits over human safety. But studio negligence was nothing compared to international propaganda warfare. Our next strongman's Olympic triumph was twisted into something that still haunts American sports history. Number 9. Glenn Morris, the Olympic champion's Nazi propaganda nightmare. Here's a story that'll make your blood run cold if you remember the 1936 Berlin Olympics. Glenn Morris wasn't just another Hollywood strongman, he was a legitimate Olympic gold medalist who won the decathlon in Hitler's Germany. Standing 6'2" with an athlete's perfectly proportioned 185-pound frame, Morris had 16-inch arms and the natural muscle development that comes from real track and field training. Morris's Olympic victory should have been pure American triumph. He set a new world record in the decathlon, proving American athletic superiority on Hitler's home turf. When Hollywood offered him the chance to play Tarzan, it seemed like the perfect opportunity to capitalize on his Olympic fame. But here's what they never taught you in history class about those 1936 Olympics. The Nazi regime turned Morris's victory into a propaganda disaster for American interests. Despite winning gold for America, his image was manipulated by German filmmakers who used his athletic physique to promote Aryan racial superiority theories. The Hollywood disaster that followed was even worse. Morris's single Tarzan film, Tarzan's Revenge, was such a catastrophic failure that the studio buried it almost immediately. Morris couldn't act, and his athletic abilities meant nothing when faced with dialogue and emotional scenes. The film was so bad that it nearly destroyed the entire Tarzan franchise. Morris's tragic story shows how even genuine American heroes could become unwitting pawns in propaganda wars. His Olympic triumph, which should have been celebrated for decades, was forever tainted by forces completely beyond his control. From international scandal to domestic deception, our next cowboy star was hiding secrets that would have shocked every moviegoer who cheered for his clean-cut Western heroes. Number 8. Rory Calhoun, the criminal cowboy's studio cover-up. Gentlemen, we're just getting started, and already we've seen fraud, exploitation, and cover-ups. But trust me, the revelations about our top strongmen will shake your faith in Hollywood's muscle myths forever. He looked like he was born to ride horses and face down outlaws, but this clean-cut Western hero was hiding a criminal past that would have shocked 1950s moviegoers. Now here's a story that'll change how you remember those clean-cut Western heroes. Rory Calhoun, that handsome cowboy who seemed born to ride horses and face down outlaws, had a criminal past that would have shocked moviegoers in the 1950s. Standing 6'1" with an authentic rancher's 190-pound build, Calhoun had the kind of weathered muscle that comes from real physical work, not gym training. Unlike the manufactured cowboys of later decades, Calhoun had actually lived the life before playing it on screen. But that authentic background included details that would have ended his career if the truth had come out. The criminal record that nearly destroyed Calhoun's Hollywood dreams wasn't minor teenage mischief. We're talking about serious felonies, including grand theft auto and armed robbery. Before he was Rory Calhoun the movie star, He was Francis Timothy McCown, a young criminal who learned his horseback riding skills while running from the law. The skills that made him authentic on screen were developed during his time as an actual outlaw. The studio cover-up that saved Calhoun's career involved some of the most powerful people in Hollywood. When Confidential magazine threatened to expose his criminal past, studio executives orchestrated a complete character assassination campaign against the magazine's credibility. But here's the thing about Calhoun. His criminal past gave him an authenticity that most Hollywood cowboys could never match. He really had lived dangerously, and it showed in every performance. Number 7. Buster Crabbe, the Olympic swimmer's triple identity scandal. Those of you who spent Saturday afternoons watching Flash Gordon's serials remember Buster Crabbe as the ultimate science fiction hero. But this Olympic swimming champion was living a triple life that involved more deception than any of his movie plots. Standing 6'1" with a swimmer's classic V-taper physique, weighing 185 pounds, Crabbe had authentic athlete measurements built in the pool, not the gym. Crabbe's Olympic credentials were real. He won gold in the 400-meter freestyle at the 1932 Los Angeles Olympics, beating out competition that included future Tarzan Johnny Weissmuller. When Hollywood offered him the chance to play multiple iconic characters, it seemed like a natural transition. But here's where the story gets twisted. Crabbe was simultaneously playing Tarzan, Flash Gordon, and Buck Rogers, often filming different serials during the same time periods. The studio system had created a situation where one actor was portraying 3 completely different heroic characters, and audiences had no idea they were watching the same man. The stunt work that made Crabbe famous wasn't as authentic as publicists claimed. While he did perform many of his own swimming scenes, the most dangerous Flash Gordon space adventure sequences relied heavily on stunt doubles and trick photography. The man you remember flying through space was often just Crabbe's face superimposed on another performer's body. Crabbe's multiple identities reveal how far the studio system would go to maximize profits from a single performer. Audiences who thought they were following 3 different heroes were actually watching an elaborate shell game orchestrated by Hollywood executives. But even Crabbe's deception pales compared to our next revelation, a biblical strongman whose cowardice during America's darkest hour nearly destroyed his career. Number 6. Victor Mature, the draft dodger's biblical muscle. When World War II called every red-blooded American to serve, this biblical strongman shocked the nation with an excuse that nearly ended his career. If you remember the epic biblical films of the late 1940s and 1950s, Victor Mature's massive frame probably dominated your memories of movies like Samson and Delilah. Standing 6'2" and weighing over 200 pounds, Mature had the kind of imposing presence that made him perfect for playing legendary strongmen with his impressive 48-inch chest and 17-inch arms. But here's a story that'll make you see those biblical epics in a whole new light. During World War II, when every red-blooded American man was expected to serve his country, Victor Mature found a way to avoid military service that scandalized Hollywood insiders. His excuse? He claimed to be too valuable to the entertainment industry to risk in combat. The public reaction to Mature's draft avoidance was swift and brutal. Newspaper columnists attacked him as a coward. Veterans groups boycotted his films, and other actors publicly criticized his lack of patriotism. The studio system had to work overtime to rehabilitate his image. The physical transformation Mature underwent for Samson and Delilah reveals another level of Hollywood deception. To play the biblical strongman, he gained 30 pounds of muscle using experimental protein supplements and training methods that weren't available to the general public. Yet, for all his wartime controversy, Mature later became known for his honest self-assessment, famously saying, "I'm no actor, and I have 64 pictures to prove it." A refreshing honesty rare in Hollywood. Number 5. Charles Atlas, the marketing fraud who built an empire on lies. the most famous fitness story in comic book history, was a complete lie, but it inspired millions of men to transform their lives. Every man over 60 remembers those Charles Atlas advertisements in comic books. The 97-pound weakling getting sand kicked in his face before transforming into a muscle-bound hero. Charles Atlas, born Angelo Siciliano, stood 5 feet 10 and weighed 180 to 187 pounds with a 47-inch chest and 17-inch biceps. But folks, nearly everything you believed about his story was carefully manufactured fiction. The famous sand-kicking beach bully story that sold millions of dynamic tension courses? Complete fabrication, created by advertising genius Charles Roman. There was no bully, no beach humiliation, no dramatic transformation moment. The entire origin story was designed to appeal to insecure young men. Here's where it gets really shocking. Despite promoting a no-weights exercise system, Atlas used barbells and dumbbells extensively throughout his training career. The man who built an empire selling isometric exercises was secretly using traditional weight training methods that he told his customers were unnecessary and potentially harmful. The business partnership that created the Charles Atlas empire reveals even more deception. Dr. Frederick Tilney actually created the dynamic tension exercise system that Atlas marketed under his own name. Atlas was primarily the model and spokesperson, not the fitness innovator that millions believed they were learning from. Yet, here's the remarkable thing. Despite the lies about his story, Charles Atlas genuinely inspired millions of men to start exercising for the first time. His mail-order courses got a generation of Americans moving, and that legacy is undeniably positive. Number 4. Clint Walker. The Gentle Giant's near-death mountain accident. A freak skiing accident nearly killed this TV cowboy, but his survival proved just how real his legendary strength actually was. At 6 feet 6 and 235 pounds of authentic muscle, Clint Walker dominated television screens as Cheyenne Body from 1955 to 1963. Those of you who remember Cheyenne know that Walker's imposing 19-inch arms and 52-inch chest made him the most physically impressive cowboy hero on television. Unlike many Hollywood strongmen, Walker's measurements were completely natural, built through genuine ranch work and outdoor labor. Walker's authentic Western background wasn't manufactured by studio publicity departments. He actually worked as a ranch hand, oil rigger, and construction worker before Hollywood discovered him. His weathered hands and sun-beaten face told the story of real outdoor work, not gym training and makeup. But Walker's most harrowing experience came not from Hollywood stunts, but from real-life adventure. In 1971, while skiing in the Sierra Nevada mountains, Walker was impaled by a ski pole that pierced his heart. The accident nearly killed him, and doctors said his survival was miraculous. His massive chest muscles and exceptional physical condition were literally the difference between life and death. The gentle giant's personality off-screen contrasted sharply with his intimidating physical presence. Walker was known throughout Hollywood as one of the kindest, most humble stars in the business. His refusal to use his size to intimidate others or throw his weight around made him beloved by crews and fellow actors. This near-death experience proved that Walker's strength wasn't just for show. It was the real deal that saved his life when it mattered most. Number 3, Gordon Scott, the manufactured discovery at the Sahara Hotel. Gordon Scott's story reads like a Hollywood fairy tale. The handsome lifeguard discovered poolside at the Sahara Hotel in Las Vegas and transformed overnight into Tarzan. Standing an impressive 6 feet 3 and weighing 218 pounds with 19-inch biceps, Scott had the physical presence to replace Lex Barker as the king of the jungle. But the discovery story that launched his career was as manufactured as his new last name. The truth about Scott's Hollywood break reveals how the studio system really worked behind the scenes. He wasn't randomly spotted by talent scouts. He was already being tracked by a network of agents who specialized in finding muscular men for action roles. His appearance at the Sahara Hotel wasn't coincidence. It was an orchestrated audition, designed to look spontaneous. The name change from Gordon Wershkool to Gordon Scott tells you everything about Hollywood's attitude toward ethnic identity in the 1950s. Producer Sol Lesser didn't just think Wershkool was hard to pronounce. Ethnic names were considered box office poison for leading men, so studios routinely erased actors' cultural identities. Scott's marriage to his Tarzan co-star Vera Miles should have been a Hollywood romance story, but the reality was far messier. Miles left him due to his financial instability and increasingly violent temper on movie sets. Industry insiders knew that Scott had serious anger management problems. Scott's manufactured discovery story exemplifies everything that was fake about Hollywood's golden age. Even the most spontaneous moments were carefully scripted publicity stunts designed to fool an unsuspecting public. From manufactured discoveries to genuine friendships destroyed. Our next strongman's bitter rivalry with his most famous student reveals the dark side of mentorship. Number 2, Reg Park, the natural champion who lost to his own student. Reg Park stood 6'1" and weighed between 225 to 250 pounds, depending on whether he was bulking or cutting for competition. His measurements included what many believe were 19-inch arms, and a physique that many consider the template for the modern bodybuilder. But the man who mentored Arnold Schwarzenegger was hiding secrets that would shock those who believed in the natural golden age of bodybuilding. Park's incredible strength feats weren't just impressive for a bodybuilder, they were remarkable for any athlete of his era. He was the second man ever to bench press 500 pounds, a lift that puts him in the company of powerlifting legends. His ability to perform heavy compound movements while maintaining perfect symmetry suggests training methods that went beyond natural capabilities. The mentorship relationship between Park and young Arnold Schwarzenegger reveals a bitter irony that destroyed their friendship. Park housed Schwarzenegger in his South African home, taught him advanced training techniques, and treated him like a son. But when they competed against each other at the 1970 Mr. Universe, the student defeated his mentor by half a point. The defeat marked the end of their personal relationship and the beginning of Park's gradual withdrawal from competitive bodybuilding. The same man who had been a father figure to the future Mr. Olympia became a bitter reminder that the sport was changing in ways the old guard couldn't accept. Park's story proves that even genuine champions can fall victim to the bitter politics of competitive sports. His legacy became overshadowed by the very student he helped create, showing how success can sometimes destroy the relationships that made it possible. But if Reg Park's story shocked you, wait until you hear about the man who became the template for every muscle hero that followed, and the lies that built his entire legend. Number 1, Steve Reeves, the Golden God's measurement, lies, and secret scandals. Steve Reeves represents everything that Golden Age Hollywood wanted us to believe about natural strength and classic beauty. Standing 6'1" with what he claimed were the perfect measurements, 18¼ inch arms, 52-inch chest, and 29-inch waist, Reeves became the template for heroic masculinity. But gentlemen, if you built your fitness dreams around Steve Reeves' example, prepare to have those illusions destroyed. The measurement controversy that surrounds Reeves goes to the heart of Hollywood's systematic deception about physical perfection. His official 1947 Mr. America contest measurements tell a very different story from the publicity stats that made him famous. The actual recorded numbers show 17.5-inch arms, a 48-inch chest, and a 31-inch waist. The perfect proportions that inspired millions were marketing fabrications. Reeves' training philosophy of less is more, with only 3 full-body workouts per week, produced results that modern natural bodybuilders can't replicate despite having access to superior nutrition and training knowledge. His ability to maintain his contest physique year-round while filming multiple movies suggests recovery capabilities that exceed what natural training typically allows. the career-ending shoulder injury that forced Reeves to retire from both bodybuilding and film, reveals another layer of deception. During the filming of The Last Days of Pompeii, a chariot crash severely damaged his shoulder, but the extent of the injury was hidden from the public for years. Reeves suffered chronic pain for the rest of his life. Perhaps most shocking of all is how Reeves spent his final decades. The man who had been Hollywood's highest-paid actor in Europe became a reclusive horse rancher who rarely granted interviews and seemed bitter about his movie career. He refused to discuss the golden age of bodybuilding, suggesting that he knew his legacy was built on foundations that wouldn't survive scrutiny. Steve Reeves' story encapsulates everything we've learned about Hollywood's golden age: the systematic deception, the inflated statistics, and the human cost of maintaining impossible standards. The man who inspired millions to pursue physical perfection knew his own perfect image was built on lies he could never escape. The uncomfortable truth about our heroes. There you have it, gentlemen. The 15 titans of Hollywood's golden age, stripped of their mythology and revealed in all their flawed humanity. These weren't the natural champions and authentic heroes that our younger selves believed in. They were products of a studio system that manufactured legends through systematic deception, measurement inflation, and careful omission of inconvenient facts. The modern fitness industry continues these same deceptive practices, just with more sophisticated marketing. The heroes of our youth weren't villains, but they weren't the paragons of natural achievement that we wanted them to be. They were men caught in a system that valued image over truth. Understanding their real stories doesn't diminish their entertainment value, but it might save the next generation from chasing dreams built on foundations of sand. So tell me, which of these strongmen shocked you the most? And which one do you still admire, flaws and all? Was it Clint Walker's miraculous survival that proved his strength was real? Charles Atlas inspiring millions despite his lies? Or maybe Rory Calhoun's authentic outlaw past that made his cowboy roles so convincing? Drop your thoughts below. I read every single comment, and I'm curious which revelation hit you hardest. And if you enjoyed learning the truth behind these Hollywood legends, make sure to subscribe, because there are plenty more Golden Age secrets waiting to be uncovered.